lastly, in A Course in Miracles, it's about giving so that we receive. And that's what we want to talk about last week. You know, it is in giving that we receive. This is what St. Francis says to us, that it's in giving that we receive. And so we are given lots of symbols around the things that are given and the things that block us. And one of the symbols is the apple. And so we have the symbol of the apple that's been used in lots of mythologies and stories, specifically starting with the Garden of Eden, where God said, I'm going to give you everything, and also I'm going to give you the ability to choose. And so God gave us the ability to choose by giving us this tree, called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so God said, you know, you can choose everything and have everything, or you could choose nothing. You know, because if I didn't give you freedom of choice, if I didn't give you something to choose except from me, then that wouldn't really be choice. That would just be, you choose me and that's it. You choose love and that's it. So Adam and Eve were like, that's cool. And these guys are like, but you know what? When you choose nothing, like you're nowhere, and it's nothing, and you can't create from there, and it's not optimal. And so I would suggest that you don't, you know? And Adam and Eve were like, sure, we won't. Of course we won't. And, you know, God turns her head, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, let's go check this out. So they have this apple, and they eat the apple. And then later on, we hear this mythology of the apple shows up in lots of different stories. You know, we have Disney use of it when the, you know, Wicked Witch comes with the apple, and she gives the apple to Snow White. Snow White, what happens to Snow White? She falls asleep. And that's what happens to Adam as well, and Eve. In the Course in Miracles, it says in the beginning of the Bible that Adam fell asleep, and never in the Bible does it say that he woke up. So, what woke up Snow White? True love's kiss. True love's kiss. The love will bring us back to the truth of who we are. Then we begin to use that apple in more of our mythology of the idea of abundance. And we have this character called Johnny Appleseed. And he just spreads his seeds all over. And we begin to use the apple for designation for teachers. And we have children going to school bringing apples to their teacher. Why are they bringing apples to their teacher? Well, school starts in September when the apples are abundant. And so it was a very cheap way of showing your appreciation for the teacher. Just grab an apple and you could be teacher's pet. And so we get this idea of apples. And the apple symbolizes choice. It symbolizes fertility. It symbolizes generosity, God's generosity. You know, when God said, I'm not just going to give you all that's good, I'm going to be so generous that I'm going to give you the ability to not choose me. That's a beautiful and generous thing. That's true love. That's freedom. So it made me think about the things that came to me by right of my consciousness through the seeds of God's inspiration for me. And in a course that I take called A Course in Creating, I have people create, instead of a vision board of what they want out of their life, I have them create a vision board of the seeds of intuition or inspiration that came to them that they decided to say yes to. And all of the things that were created, not through your own best thinking, but through your connection with God. So I have mine here, you know, and I make one every year, so it reminds me, oh, this is the woman who was open to bringing all this into existence. And on it are all of the things that I initially said no to, right? You're always going to say no to God's ideas. I'm always going to say no to God's ideas because they seem so ridiculous, and you seem like you're not the person to do it. Every single time that I gave birth with Will, even, I didn't think I was going to tell this story, but, but you know, Will was sterile from chemotherapy when we first met. And so we got married, and we eloped, and then I brought a dress, an optimistic size, too small for our actual wedding. So I have this wedding dress, you know, and we are inviting everyone, and all of a sudden, he's sterile. So we can't get pregnant. And all of a sudden, I'm inviting all people to my wedding, and I got this optimistic dress a size too small, and all of a sudden, I'm throwing up all over the place. And I'm like, what's going on? And my sisters are like, maybe you're pregnant. And I'm like, I'm not pregnant. I can't be because my husband's sterile. And then I take a pregnancy test, and I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant with a sterile guy. He goes to the sperm bank. They say, you only have 1 or 2 sperm in here. You don't have a sperm count. And he says, well, my wife's pregnant. They say, well, it only takes 1. What are the odds? Ridiculous. So I ended up having this child. You know, my sisters say, you know, get an extra large bouquet, rip out the zipper, expand that dress a little, let it grow with you. You know what I mean? I did not want that plan. I wanted my picket fence, my perfect wedding. I was like, God, no, why are you doing this to me? This is not the right time for this. And the next time, you know, I thought I was done. I had 2 kids now, a girl and a boy. I was finished. I was complete. I'm on the pill. I can't believe I'm sharing this. I'm on the pill. Will likes to say that this is the way I took the pill. Honey, what's today? Tuesday. Oh. So anyway, I end up pregnant. And I'm like, what are the chances for me? You know, we have 2 kids. We're not like we're having sex. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of on the pill. And I get pregnant. I'm like, God, I got a career here. I'm an actress. Every time you take me out of the game, I got to restart every single time. So I have the 3rd baby, and then I end up going back on the pill, and I get this skin pigmentation, where it looks like I have a mustache. You know how many commercials I'm going to book with a mustache? None. So I go to the dermatologist, and the dermatologist is like, yeah, that's from the pill. You got to go off the pill, get fitted for a diaphragm. I say, okay. I can't believe I'm telling the story. So I book a day for the, you know, to go get fitted for a diaphragm. It happens to be a day that Will gets booked on a job, so I don't have childcare, and I have 2 kids. And I go into to get fitted with my legs in stirrup, 1 kid in one hand, and 1 in the other, saying, look away, look away! And the midwife, apparently, you can tell from looking at someone's cervix if they're pregnant or not. And she says to me, you could be pregnant. And I'm like, you could be crazy, fit me, and let me get the hell out of here. I get the diaphragm home, and I find out I'm pregnant with a 3rd child. And I still have that diaphragm still in the package, unwrapped. So it's interesting how things come to you and you say no, and yet every single one of those children have been my best teachers. Like, they have been such great teachers. And then my children come to me and they say, Mom, I got depression. Mom, I got drug addiction. Mom, I'm transgender. Mom, I'm on the spectrum. And each time I go, no, God, this is not my plan. You know, my plan was the picket fence and the beautiful White House and the easy peasy thing, you know? And God's like, just trust me. Don't say no to this. This is where your best blessings are going to come from. Go into the belly of your fear. Sit in the belly of your fear. And right where you want to constrict, say, okay, I'm willing. I'm willing to figure out how this is going to bless me. And not just me, but every single person that I come in contact with. Because I will not be blessed alone. I cannot be blessed alone. That's impossible to be blessed alone. So we have this idea of this apple. And in our limited thinking, we think if we, in regards to generosity, if we have these apples and these blessings in our life, we get stagnant. We start to hoard all of our apples and we say, God, I'm going to get my own. You know, and God says, let me look again at this apple with you. It is a symbol of generosity. And if you give your apples away, it looks like in form that you have less apples. But if you recognize the mathematics of my nature, you will look within the apple. And within the apple, you could count the number of seeds in that apple, but you will never be able to count the number of orchards. And this is the same with all of our blessings. When we're really willing to look at things with God, God will show us a deeper interpretation of the situation that will bring to us an audacious lesson that will lead us living audacious lives. I'm so glad I don't have a normal life. I'm so glad I didn't stop God's will from moving through my life. I'm so glad that I was willing to at least buckle up and go on the ride without too much resistance. Because you know every single time you've had something cross your path where you said no to it and you said shut the door, that it kept knocking anyhow. And it just waited on your doorstep to be acknowledged and to be invited in. And we could just sit there for all day long, and the longer we sit, the more painful it gets. Because love will not be denied. And it's not until we open the door to those things that we think are going to kill us, and we invite it in with love's true kiss. You know, if we literally kiss it on the lips and say, I got this. That we're able to transform it and awaken to the blessings that live within those invitations. And we no longer see it from a sense of separation. We see it from a sense of sacredness. Can I get an amen? Amen! I like that apple. You are rocking it today. We're going to jump into the book. to the manual for teachers and we're reading generosity. In regards to generosity in Course in Miracles, it says, the term generosity has special meaning to the teachers of God. It's not the usual meaning of the world. In fact, it's a meaning that must be learned and learned very carefully. Like all the other attributes of God's teachers, this one rests ultimately on trust. For without trust, no one can be generous in the true sense of the word. So we say, in God we trust, all others pay cash, as Gene Shepherd likes to say. To the world, generosity means giving away in the sense of giving up. Like I talked about those apples, that we're giving it away, and it seems like according to the mathematics of man, we're losing something. To the teacher of God, it means giving away in order to keep. Now, isn't that interesting? To give away in order to keep. A Course in Miracles tells us when an idea is shared, it's strengthened. So instead of saying, I'm going to give you 3 of my 4 apples and now I have no apples left, actually what I'm strengthening, the idea I'm strengthening is the fact that I know that God is limitless and my source is secure. So it doesn't matter how many apples I give away, because I have this consciousness that knows about the abundant nature of God. Now, if somebody doesn't have that consciousness, they're going to be stressed out in the giving away of their apples. So this has been emphasized throughout the text and the workbook, but it's perhaps more alien thinking to the world than many other ideas in our curriculum. Its greater strangeness lies merely on the obviousness of its reversal of the world's thinking. In the clearest way possible and at the simplest of levels, the word means the exact opposite to the teachers of God than to the world. So generosity to teachers of God know that this is actually how I turn on my abundance. Generosity is what's been given to me by the right of my consciousness, because I'm a son and daughter of God who has been so generous that she even gives us the ability to choose not her him. I guess this one is for my transgender child. So the teachers of God are generous out of self-interest, capital S, self-interest. This does not refer, however, to the self of which the world speaks. The teacher of God does not want anything he cannot give away, because he realizes it would be valueless to him by definition. What would he want it for? He could only lose because of it. He cannot gain. Therefore, he does not seek what only he can keep, because that is a guarantee of loss. It sounds interesting, right? You might have a problem understanding that. So to think that I want to keep what only I can have will move me into a sense of hoarding. But always I want to bless everything and say, it's not my money. It's God's money moving through me. It's not my romance, it's God's romance moving through me. I want to activate it by giving it so that I can receive it. And if I do that, I will see a return on my interest. What I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is being a channel of God's love. This is where the law of attraction veers from the law of love. The law of attraction is about me getting and holding on to that idea, that vision board, that concept so strongly that my focus brings it into form, which is wonderful. But it's also exhausting. And in the law of attraction, we can get into the law of distraction and we become fractured. Whereas we could let go of the form and say, thy will is my will. I'm going to get out of your way, God, and bring forth for me beyond what I even know to ask for. And it might come in the form of unplanned children and unplanned classrooms. But within those things, I will trust that if I meet those with a true kiss of love, that I will be blessed twice by them. Because not only will it bless me, but it will bless everyone I come in contact with, because it will show that I have demonstrated my true oneness with God. I mean, what could be more beautiful than that? And what else are we here for? Than to walk as God walks the world. To be a light of the world. And to be a light of the world means you got to let go of your own scripts. Those scripts, those desires, those agendas that you're holding out for God are literally blocking that light from shining through us. We don't want to deal with that business. We all know that everything that's come to us, that we've wrestled with and said yes to eventually, has been such a blessing. That we go, wow. Maybe God does know what she's doing. I had that experience again this past week when I got guided to open up my home for meditation 3 days a week. And I was like, why my house, God? Why can't I just do it out in someplace else? And I asked God, and God gives me a clear answer. And in this particular sense, it said, do you want to put fertilizer where you want things to grow? And I was like, oh, that's good. that has been facilitated for me by my husband, who goes to work every day, God bless him. And sun comes in, and I look around the room, and I cannot believe how beautiful my living room is. It's a beautiful living room, but when there's people there meditating and connecting with their divine, I'm like, this place just became like heaven. And this is what I was kicking and screaming about. And you know, as well as I know, that I'm not sitting in my living room for 30 minutes by myself. I'm never going to do that. That's never going to happen. God gave me 51 years to try and prove that would work, and it didn't. So now, I got to try to practice meditation with it. And I had started this off because I always like to add my own, plan to God's plan. I'm like, okay, God, I'll do it as a fundraiser for Speakeasy. And then when I sat down, I really got like, what, are you kidding me? You think dollar bills are more important than the thing that's going on in your house right now? Like, this is beautiful. Don't you dare put a price on it. Like, those are just like little gnats. Blow them away. What's happening here is beyond price. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. But it didn't come to me, that revelation, until I let go of my own scripts and just showed up and was a little bit willing. And when I say a little bit, emphasis on the little bit, because I was really not willing. If you were on any of the calls, you know I was hemming and hawing, like, I even went to the meditation place by my house, and I was like, hey, and they're like, can you teach here? And I'm like, absolutely. And then I went back, and my internal teacher was like, I didn't tell you to go teach over there. I said, at home, and I was like, damn. And then they called me, they're like, oh, we changed things around. I said, that's fine. I finally put the thing out for meditation in my home, and that began happening. My willingness showed up. And then they called me back, they said, we also want you to teach here. So it's like the Holy Spirit knows how to use you and use your gifts if we just show up to do our part and say yes. This is something I learned from improv, that just say yes and to everything. So I wanted to just tell you one more story before we get into our conversation. And this is a story from the Bible, and it's a story about generosity. And it's one of those stories that I found to be, I struggled with as a kid. And it's a story about this man who comes to Jesus, and he says, Jesus, I want to be like you. I want to get into the kingdom of heaven. And, in regards to New Thought and Course in Miracles, we're not getting into heaven as some far off place we go when we die. Heaven is right here. So people think, I got to do something to get into heaven. No, you just have to give everything up in order to be present. Peace, presence, and purpose come together when we're willing to be still and just be in this moment, and this is heaven. So Jesus says, well, okay, then all you have to do is follow all the commandments. And this young man was like, okay, check, got that, I'm doing that. And I still I'm not in heaven. And Jesus said, well, you got to sell all your belongings, all your possessions, and give them to the poor. And the guy left. And I was like, okay, I'll see you later. As we all do. We're like, what? Are you crazy? And then the disciples said to Jesus, what happened there? And Jesus said, it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to get through the eye of a needle, right? And I remember as a kid, I like to think outside the box and find a loophole. And I was like, you just got to get yourself a bigger needle. And I was like, that's not the solution, Maureen. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us when Jesus is saying, let go of everything? Come empty, come open-minded, come open-handed, come open-hearted. What he's saying is that God's not looking for rich men. That's not what God's looking for. God's looking for generous men. And it's in giving that we receive. Now, you can be both rich and generous, but generosity comes first. That's how we become truly rich, is when generosity is put first. And then from that place of extreme generosity, where you let everything flow and go through you without holding agenda, without giving God directions, you will be blessed with so much richness that you won't know what to do with yourself. And you will find yourself looking around your own home thinking, how the hell did I get to heaven? How did I get there before even dying? How could God be so good to me? And when you get to that place of how could God be so good to me, stay there, take a breath, and say, Lord, please, I can handle the generous nature of my God, because I'm ready to really fully give myself over to this plan. And that's the word. Yes.